unfortunately, I think Dan is out on vacation till the 6th of June, but I do recall him giving us a figure, and I wanted to remember that it was $4.25 an hour to pay the intern as they had paid their seasonal employees in the past, and perhaps we can check with the department tomorrow to determine what that seasonal employee rate actually is.
Mrs. Craig?
Maybe we should hold it, or that'll be 2 weeks, though. I'd rather not hold it as long as it's budgeted and due to begin in June.
Mr. Bennett, did you have anything further? All right. All right. Well, it will have to be within the budget, and my understanding is that it's the normal hourly rate. I'm sorry that we don't know, and I think that it would be a good idea to advise staff members to see to it that that kind of information gets into the contract itself, and we'll try to do that in the future. Any further discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote on the approval of the contract.
Harrison. Hermes. Yes. Horton.
Pass.
Reedy. Yes. Rosenleaf. Yes. Sampson.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Bennett.
Pass.
Craig. Yes. Gingarelli. Yes. Would the passes care to change their vote beginning with Bennett?
No.
No change. Harrison. No change. Horton.
No change.
No change. Contracts approved 9-0 with 3 passes. Bennett, Harrison, and Horton passing.
Public Services Committee, Mr. Horton.
First, we'll take the item which was referred back. That's item number 9 on the consent agenda, which is item number 3 under your Public Services Committee agenda. The committee recommend the council authorize the mayor to sign the development and construction agreement with the Montana Department of Transportation for the Community Transportation Enhancement Program, CTEP Fund project for the Historical Missoula Milestone and Marker Project in the amount of $37,710, and I would so move.
I think this is Millstone, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, again, this is something, I think too often we're either for something or against something, and we don't necessarily worry about the price tag that's attached to it. I have no problem with putting up some markers and doing some of the things that's talked about here, but basically what's entailed is 10 markers, a little pamphlet, and moving one of these. I think it's a historical marker, repositioning it. Total cost of $37,000, which is grant money, but it's grant money that could be used for other needs. I think $3,700 per marker is more than I would pay if it was my money and I was trying to decide what best to do for the city of Missoula with it. So I would like to see us take another look at the amount of money we're budgeting for this, and if there isn't some less expensive way to do it.
Mr. Horton.
I would ask Alan Matthews to give a brief history and explanation of this.
Mr. Matthews.
My name's Alan Matthews, City Historic Preservation Officer. This is a transportation enhancement activity project that was proposed back in 1992. The transportation enhancement is a federal highway program, Department of Transportation, and there are 10 categories of eligibility for these projects. Out of the 10 categories, 6 of these categories refer to historic preservation activities. This is the only historic preservation activity that the city is proposing. The city has $971,000 worth of projects on the board here, and we're asking support for a $37,000 project. This is not $3,700 per marker either. This involves moving the original Missoula millstone, the founding of the city of Missoula, was based on the fact that this mill was located on the northern end of where the Higgins Street Bridge is now, which would be in the Caras Park area. This millstone, after the mill was demolished, was moved out to the university and was buried to a degree. There's no marker on it or anything. This is the very beginning of our city. Part of the project is to bring this back, to have a historical display around the millstone itself, to try to teach not only our children of this community, to give them some sort of concrete reference points for where things happened in our history, but also the adults in the community, and also tourists that bring in dollars to see these sort of things. This is an investment by the city of just a little over $5,000 to receive a total project return of $37,000. I think, I don't have a license to practice math, but I believe that's approximately a six-fold return or more. And if I could get that on my dollar, I would definitely take it, and I think we'd be foolish not to.
Thank you. Further discussion? Al?
How big is the millstone?
The millstone's about, 5 feet in diameter.
What, the $37,000 is going to move the millstone and then is going to set up some other markers?
The 37,000 is roughly divided into three sections, three components. One is to purchase the markers, 9 markers to go along the southern part of the Riverfront Trail. And another section is to, of course, then there's construction costs. You have to construct whatever you're going to use to hold these markers, to display them. There are costs then with moving the millstone and creating some sort of a format, probably with river rock, to display it, and then have some sort of a walkway around it also that provides access for people to get to it. And the third thing is a teaching guide, walking tour, brochure or booklet type thing, so that the schools can get involved in this and be part of almost a walk of history, and get the children down into these areas where our history actually began in this city. So there's 3 sections, and each are roughly $10,000 for construction and planning and things like that.
Yeah, I don't have any particular problem with the project. I was just wondering how we come up with a $37,000 figure. Did you get estimates from somebody?
Yeah, I have breakdowns, and we went through this
I know
originally.
we went through this once
Long
before,
time
and I
ago.
think I was one of the ones that approved the seed money, so to speak, on it. I'm in favor of the project, but I have some of the same concerns that Mr. Bennett does as to $37,000 is quite a bit of money to do some things, and this may be not one of those things. We may be getting our money's worth out of it. We're getting the $5,000, but the rest of it's our money too.
Right, and if we don't use it, someone else will.
Mrs. Gingarelli.
Just for the council's reference, at the committee, at Public Services, for those council members who are not on that committee, Mr. Matthews passed around a picture of what these markers look like, and because I think everyone has a concern about what goes down on the riverfront, and that we don't start to fill up the riverfront with things that are not attractive or things at all. But I agree with Mr. Matthews' comments about the need to preserve our historical background here, and these markers they looked pretty attractive. They were made out of stones, and they looked like cairns, didn't they, sort of? So they're stones, and they stand about 3 feet high, and they have a marker on them. And maybe, I don't know if you had pictures with you that you'd want to pass around or whatever, if people wanted to see them, but I support this.
Any further discussion? Ms. Tracy?
I'd just like to point out that the City of Missoula's obligation to this overall project, as Alan had said, is $5,060, which is 13.42% of the overall project. If we don't spend this $5,000 in this way, we will allocate those monies somewhere else, and we will lose $32,652 of federal money, or otherwise allocate that to some other project. It's not my understanding that we have any problem with spending those federal monies that we have available to us. That this is clearly a project that is eligible under the enhancement pots of money that we have been accumulating over the past 3 years. And I think it should be clear to people who are watching this meeting that this total project is a $37,610 item, but from our budget, we are really pulling only 13% of that money, or $5,060.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Shea.
I would like to thank Alan Matthews and the Historical Preservation Committee. You have a very small budget that you work with and a very important job to do. It's a very vulnerable program. I think some people look at it and say, well, what do you really do? You know, you're not really public services, and does this thing function? And history is a very important part of our community, and what you're doing with this project, although it is a small project, is preserving the legacy and helping us understand just a little bit more about our community, and those things last many, many years over time. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll have a roll call then on the motion to approve the contract.
Hermes. Horton.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Rosenleaf. Sampson.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Bennett.
No.
Craig. Gingarelli. Harrison. Agreements approved, 11-1, with Bennett voting no.
Mr. Horton.
The next is item number 9 on your public services agenda. The committee recommend the council set a public hearing for June 20th, 1994 to adopt an ordinance amending Title 13 Public Services, Chapter 13.04, Missoula Municipal Code entitled Sewer Regulations by adapting new section 13.04.060 requiring municipal sanitary sewer hookup connection to a community sanitary sewer system or dry laying of sanitary sewer pipe for any new building construction that includes plumbing facilities and is located within 4.5 miles of the city limits. And I would remind the council that this is to set a public hearing, and I would so move.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Gingarelli.
I'd just like to thank Alderman Sweet for initiating this. This was entirely initiated by Craig Sweet, and certainly Public Works, I'm sure, had working on it, but it's a real important ordinance, and I'm real glad it's going to public hearing.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is comments from city staff. Are there any staff comments this evening? Oh, I think Bruce is up. So. Bruce, go ahead.
Bruce Bennett, city engineer. I just wanted to respond to a couple of the comments that were brought up. In regards to the status on the North Side Access project, that was brought to the technical advisory committee of the city of Missoula, and it was approved, and it was listed as a priority project on the CMAQ funding. Then you enter into Neverland, and in other words, we submit it to the State Department of Transportation to get it going, and it's on that list and it's submitted to them, and you just kind of wait for your agreement to come back that says that we can begin the process, and it just sort of we sit there and talk, and it's just taken forever to get these agreements on CMAQ, and primarily the biggest problem is because the state has never dealt with these type of projects, and they're just very, very hesitant and inexperienced on how to proceed with them. And so they have approved, it's taken us something like 2 or 3 years to finally get something on the bicycle pedestrian coordinator supplement. I think we've got an agreement close on that. We were working on that about a year before we started this one. That was one of our first projects we started on. I think we started that 3 years ago. So it's just taken a very difficult, we only got so much time from our point of view to even spend on, trying to keep these moving along. And so it's very frustrating for us. And I can't really blame it on anybody, because like I said, I think their problem is that the whole process, federal to state, it's all new, and this type of programming's all new, and they're struggling with trying to move it along. And I think that's actually a nationwide problem, if I remember right, what I heard about CMAC projects. So that's kind of the status on that. And I know Karen Jaworski's been in communications with the state numerous times about this. We even drafted a proposed agreement, which we didn't have to do, to help them. And it's still sitting over there. And also in regards to Councilperson Gingrelli, about in regards to the underpass lights, that's supposed to happen at nighttime. They go to half at nighttime. They aren't out. No. They go, the underpass lights, as far as the vehicular lights, only half of those, they actually shut those off at half, so otherwise it isn't a blinding brightness when you go in the underpass as a vehicle. Now the pedestrian lights was the critical one that we had all the concerns about, and actually that we've successfully been able to keep those lit. We went and put a guard on those, and since I've worked here anyway, it's the most successful rate we've had in keeping those underpass pedestrian lights lit. You can go through it most times, and maybe you may see one out or something, but they've been staying on top and been able to keep those going. But the vehicular ones are on. Yeah.
Kelly?
Is this in Department of Commerce, Montana Department of
No, Department of Transportation, the old highway department.
Well, I know there are other communities and states that are spending a lot of this money. So I'm wondering if we need to work with our congressional delegation to get a little speedier activity at Department of Transportation. I'm concerned that we'll lose these funds entirely by not getting them approved and allocated.
Yeah, I guess locally they would probably point to say, well, you are moving along with the Brook South and Russell project, you are moving along with the traffic signalization project, you are moving along with the Orange Street project, and it just seems like it's these ones that are the non-standard, I guess I would have to say. They're non-typical of the past. I think Linda Tracy smiles. She's looking at me. I mean, in other words, we're talking about projects that they're not typically used to dealing with.
But these are exactly the projects that are supposed to be funded
Right.
with this money.
That's right.
Widening the Orange Street Bridge is not the target of this funding. Pedestrian access is the target of this funding.
Mm-hmm. But well, I guess I can vent that frustration too. But the problem with it is that Montana anyway has not typically dealt with these type of projects. And maybe it is unique to Montana, but you certainly feel that frustration at the state level. Also, maybe it's adding to the state problem is they lost a couple hundred of their employees as of January when they went and did the retirement option, and a lot of these departments had complete changeover of personnel. I know that's the case with the CTIP projects. I think we've dealt with 3 people in 1 year, and now the person that's on right now has been at the longest, and that's been 5 months. Because of the changes that were going on. I don't know if that's the case necessarily with the CMAC. I think that we've had a consistent person on that one. But
Okay, and then on the things the city can control with the underpass, I know we had said that we would schedule a cleaning, closing of the underpass and the fire trucks in there and hosing it out on an annual basis. Is that scheduled for this summer yet?
well, the state has come forward and has offered to bring in, I guess they recently purchased and have offered to come in with a water blaster on all the structures around the Missoula community. So we're going to get on schedule for that, and that's supposed to remove graffiti and cleaning and everything. And so we want to wait for that to come along before we do that. I guess they have started on some of the interstate underpasses, and then they'll gradually work on some of our other structures too.
Mr. Sampson.
Is there still any chance of getting the pedestrian walkways under the Orange Street painted? We've talked about that now for 5 years, and somebody, I guess, nobody wants to paint it.
Well, I guess what we kept talking about was we were looking for some sort of means to remove it rather than paint, because painting peels and comes off. And that's why we want to see how this water blasting is going to do the job.
Is that going to be in the pedestrian area
Right.
walkway also?
That's
as
what
well
I
as
understood. That's what I've been told anyway. They're going to do that area and also the vehicular area.
Maybe blast it and then paint it.
Yeah. I'm not aware of us discussing painting it. I know the state has not necessarily agreed with that. Whatever, they kept trying to say we can remove the graffiti, not paint it.
Ms. Rosenleaf?
During our efforts to find solutions to this problem, there actually wasn't a great deal of support for painting it because there's a fear that it makes a beautiful slate canvas for graffiti. And there was talk about a different type of a surface that was a more uneven surface that would be less attractive for painting. And we talked about that, but we actually haven't landed upon a solution nor any funding to actually do that.
Mrs. Craig?
Bruce, while you're on the hot seat, could you give us a brief, tell us what's happening with Malfunction Junction briefly?
Okay. Tomorrow we'll have our monthly Citizen Action Committee meeting with the consultant. We are kind of at a, I guess you'd call it a stage point right now with it, because what we'll be presenting tomorrow to that committee will be basically a summary of the 7 alternatives that is the scope of our study. We'll be bringing back some results in regards to what the computer modeling is telling us about each one of those alternatives. And then basically we'll be, this will be an advancement to a public meeting that we are going to be having, I believe it's either June 7th or the 9th at Russell School. That will be basically presenting the 7 alternatives as they, and these alternatives aren't different from what we've been saying before. It's been the same alternatives that we've talked about for the last 6 or 7 months. But now we're going to begin presenting the information, you know, how much traffic volume, how much it's going to cost, or what are the options and stuff like that, so that we begin, the information is going to be provided so that we can start narrowing it down. And then the next step will be to start narrowing it down to 3 as of this fall. But that meeting, it should be June, if I remember right, June 9th at Russell School from 6 to 9 p.m. And we'll be advertising that and everything, of course, prior to that meeting. That's the status of that.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks.
While I'm on the hot seat, I guess one more additional comment. The Rattlesnake sewer project's underway, and if you want to see some of the reasons that sewer is so expensive, go up Rattlesnake Drive here in the next couple of days. Because in that Rattlesnake Drive, there's like about a 20-foot deep excavation there. And it's some of the reasons that we've been trying to explain to you why sewer is so expensive. That's one of the evidences of it. So if you got time to try to drive by there, you're going to be detoured around. But if you want to take a look at the site, we can get you actually close to the construction site. Or you can look for the mounds of material or whatever. But that is an example of some of the problems we have with construction.
Thanks, Bruce. Chuck?
In the front of your budget, we put a very draft schedule with of the upcoming budget meetings. The first meeting, if you want to hold it this Wednesday, you'll set that later in the meeting tonight when you set all your meetings. But before Wednesday's meeting, you might look over that schedule and see how it works or does not work. This year, with moving administration and finance to Wednesdays, it made it a little more difficult. You could think about moving budget meetings to Thursday if you want, or other times, but this is basically repeating the same schedule of last year with a little bit of modification to accommodate administration and finance committee. So look that over. I think this Wednesday will focus primarily in the budget on the mayor's transmittal letter, the budget highlights in the front section, so you don't have to read a whole lot for this week. And then we did skip a week at the request of the mayor, but you know the schedule is up to the council, so you should look it over and make sure it works for your purposes. Then Also, if the public is interested, we have copies of the budget, the mayor's executive budget, that can be checked out from the city clerk's office.
Thank you, Chuck. Ms. Rosenleaf?
If we wanted to have that optional public hearing on the 27th, should we be scheduling that on our Wednesday 25th meeting? So that we can vote on it on the 6th and notice it up?
Yeah, I mean, it is entirely optional at the councils. It could happen this week, or you could wait till the 8th, but certainly you want to do it at one of your next meetings, make a motion to hold it or not hold it.
Okay, further staff comment? We do have some new business items this evening. The first is from Mr. Reedy. Jack?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and order to act on the final plat for Sunnyside Park Phase 4.
You've heard the motion to suspend the rules. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. Reedy?
There is a letter in your packet from Mr. Kaufman, and Nick, would you like to just briefly explain what happened? I know maybe the rest of it.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. For the record, my name is Nick Kaufman, K-A-U-F-M-A-N, business address 2500 Murphy Street. Of late, most of the agencies that are involved in reviewing subdivisions, both private and public, are taking all of them a little bit longer to do their jobs, as I think we all are. It's a very busy time. And you approved the preliminary plat for Sunnyside Park to June 1st. We had scheduled some time ago to get this thing recorded prior to June 1st. I inadvertently forgot about the 5th Monday and subsequently Memorial Day. We would like to get it filed before June 1st. If you could accommodate that, great. If not, you can certainly refer it to committee tomorrow, and we'll take it up June 6th and ask for an extension. The city attorney, city engineer, and Office of Community Development have reviewed the conditions of final plat and have all signed it. It's a formality, but the council does have to approve final plats.
Are there any questions for Nick? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion carries. Mr. Reedy? The next one is Chris Gingarelli's. Mrs. Gingarelli.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to vote on the final plat for Reserve Street Industrial Center Phase 9.
You've heard the motion to suspend the rules. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion carries. Mrs. Gingarelli.
I believe Mr. Kaufman has a report on this also. This is in the Gateway Place area. It's another final plat.
Chris, I need a motion to approve the plat, and then we can have him speak.
I would move the final plat of Reserve Street Industrial Center Phase 9 go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufman.
For the record, Nick Kaufman, once again, same spelling and same address. Reserve Street Industrial Center Phase 9 is part of a plat which the City Council approved some time ago. It's a two-lot plat. You have a copy in your packet. One lot will be occupied by an insurance company. The other one will be occupied by a credit union. All the improvements have been guaranteed with other phases or guaranteed through the City Engineer's Office. Once again, the City Engineer, City Attorney, and Office of Community Development have reviewed this final plat. Same situation. It could indeed wait until June 6th. We'd like to get this one filed before the 5th Monday situation again. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks, Nick. Any discussion? Chris?
I guess I would just add that this, I asked Mr. Kaufman what exactly the plat involves, and it's for the construction of a credit union there and an insurance office.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the plat, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Is there any further new business? If not, the next order of business is comments from citizens. We provide 3-minute segments for citizens to address the council. And while we have in the past said that citizens have to give their name and address, I don't find anything in our rules that say you have to give your address, so we'll leave that up to you. Are there any citizen comments this evening? Mr. Best.
Ross Best, Box 8303. I'd like to congratulate City Attorney Jim Nugent for his success in defending the constitutionality of the referendum for the repeal of the zoning of the land at Fort Missoula. It does appear that the referendum will proceed on June 7. I'm sure that some citizens in the next couple of weeks will be uncertain how much difference that referendum can make. There's been the report that even if the proposed subdivision, or excuse me, development doesn't go through, there will be some other type of development there. In researching the legal status of that project, I've come upon something very interesting in the Montana Constitution. And I've written a letter to the Governor, the Attorney General, the Board of Land Commissioners, and the Board of Regents of Higher Education, suggesting 5 reasons that the sale of the land was unconstitutional under the Montana Constitution and is therefore legally void. My letter's fairly long. I'll read the summaries of those 5 arguments, and I'll mention how anyone who's interested can look at the entire letter. Number 1, the Board of Regents, the University of Montana, the University of Montana Foundation have no constitutional authority to sell land such as that at Fort Missoula, which has been granted to the state for the benefit of educational institutions of the state. Exclusive authority to sell such land lies with the Board of Land Commissioners, which did not approve the sale and could not constitutionally have done so under the circumstances. 2, even if the Board of Regents had constitutional authority to sell or authorize the sale of the land, the sale violated the constitutional requirement that state lands be disposed of only in pursuance of general laws providing for such disposition. There are no general laws providing for the sale of land by the regents. 3, the Montana Constitution imposes the additional requirement that state lands not be disposed of until their full market value, to be ascertained in such manner as may be provided by law, has been paid or safely secured to the state. The legislature has provided no manner for the determination by the Board of Regents of the full market value of state land. 4, the purchase price did not represent the full market value of the Fort Missoula land at the time the sale was concluded. And 5, the purchase price did not represent the full market value of the Fort Missoula land at the time of the agreement to sell. Now, these are very stark summaries of the arguments. I have put a copy of my letter along with some related documentation on reserve at the Missoula Public Library under the title Constitutionality of Fort Missoula Land Sale. These are very substantial legal questions. They'll ultimately have to be decided by the courts. But I can tell you the referendum can make a difference. The land can be returned to the people of the state. And I was pleased to learn about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
I'll just finish up by saying that
Well, I do need to ask you to give us your name once again, however. Would you do
Kenneth
that,
E.
please?
Haugen.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. To get off my story, next day's Missoulian came out with the same story about Snodgrass. Nothing mentioned about me or my support group, Family for Families. So I phoned McAnally and asked him the same thing I'd asked Frost. And McAnally was on vacation. My point being that the media will not report to the public anything about the corruption of DFS. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haugen. Any further citizen comment?
My name is Candy Matthew. I own the Montana Craft Connection on Stevens Avenue. I'm also on the board of directors for Zootown Club Incorporated. a nonprofit organization that has been put together to found a non-alcoholic nightclub and kind of hangout for teens and young adults in Missoula. I just wanted to make the council aware of what we're doing, hopefully to generate some interest from the city council. We've talked with Mayor Kemmis, and he's been looking at some statistics that he's taken some questions and gone through the high schools with, and to find out what the kids feel that they need. Here in Missoula, I've heard a lot of comments this evening since I've been sitting there on responsible government, responsible subdividing and building for Missoula, preserving historical things. And I think that one of the things that we overlook quite a bit is our youth and our young adult population here. We seem to complain about them quite a bit, what they do, the graffiti, the BBs in the windows and things like that. And what Zootown Incorporated is trying to do is change a lifestyle for Missoula young adults. And that age range can be 13 to 25, because there's so many kids out there right now that need some other socialization places to go rather than sneaking into bars or going under the bridges at night to paint graffiti. We can solve that Orange Street problem for you. We got a lot of kids that could scrub and paint under there. Some states have actually let kids do graffiti if it's good and tasteful. And we could even make it historic for the gentleman that was up here earlier. But the main emphasis is that we need help. We need help from this community. We need help from our city council. We need help from our parents. We need help from our teachers. We need help from every part of Missoula to stop a growing problem that we have here. Within 50 miles of Missoula, we have 11,000 kids between the ages of 17 and 21. They virtually, other than religious and church groups or the Y, have nothing to do, especially in the evenings. And Zootown Incorporated wants to become a functioning part of the community to help resolve a lot of the problems that we see happening due to lack of things to do in the evening. 3 minutes is really hard to talk about this, but I think we all understand and relate to the problem that we're having with our youth, a problem that can be resolved by us as parents and adults, by getting involved with our youth in other ways than all the regular ways. They have socialization desires that we as adults do. Proof in that is more bars, more casinos, more alcohol. We seem to cater to the adult tastes when we should be catering to our youth problems and our youth needs too. What use is it to bring up a bunch of rocks and put it down in the Orange Street walkway when we can have 25 or 30 youths destroy them in, I don't know, night's time if they feel like it, because they have nothing better to do? What use is it to clean up the Orange Street Bridge if those same youths are going to go under there and paint the Orange Street Bridge? You know, ZTC can offer them a wall that's theirs to paint instead of destroying something else. The main thing that I've been sitting here all night, and I've been really, really getting nervous about doing this and trying to emphasize the importance that this community should place not on just its university youth, but our own home kids right here that we have just kind of skipped over. There's a large age group there that we've just kind of forgotten about. And unfortunately, that's the age group that's coming up to a voting age. They're coming up to a responsibility age. And for some reason, we're not promoting all those things within them in a larger, more farther-reaching effort to where they're at, and trying to help them mature and grow responsibly. ZTC will have jobs available, full-time, part-time. It'll be a teaching experience, learning experience, sharing experience. It'll be a place that will meet the kids where they're at. Right now we have our biggest, is it
Candy.
3 minutes already?
Yep.
Sorry.
Let you go over a little bit.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Thanks.
Randy Ammon, 257 South Easy Street. On behalf of MCAT, I wanted to assure Mr. Haugen that in MCAT's eyes, he's of precisely the same importance as Mr. Snodgrass or the mayor or anyone on city council or any other member of our community. That's what MCAT's all about. Missoula Community Access TV quietly celebrated its 4th anniversary of community access cablecasting and training this past month. In 4 years, over 1,400 Missoulians were trained in basic video production. These folks checked out Portapacks over 2,700 times, spent 20,000 plus hours in the editing rooms, and created 2,100 locally produced programs. The Community Programming Index, put out by the Buskey Group, released their 1993 totals for community access centers, and MCAT was tops in the nation in its size category for both the number of checkouts per camcorder and the hours of video editing system usage. Some good news about award-winning productions. Joel Baird was recently in Brazil to pick up an international video award for a piece of video art that he and Rick Phillips produced. The Best of the Northwest Video Festival just announced their 94 award-winning programs, 4 of which were produced through MCAT. Congratulations to the locally produced winners, which were The Bitterroot and Beyond by Cold Mountain Cold River's Mike Meese in the empowerment category. Welcome to the Fungal Jungle, also by Cold Mountain Cold River's Mike Meese in the instructional category. A River Cries by Gene Bronowski and Rick Pukas in the Programs That Make a Difference category. And the MCAT Story by volunteer MCAT producers, coordinated by Lori Hudak in the Public Access category. The MCAT Story was also selected as a finalist in the 94 Hometown International Video Festival. And the final judging activities for that are underway right now in Boston, Massachusetts. All of these award-winning programs will be presented on MCAT 2 weeks from Sunday, that's June 12th, at 8 p.m. Congratulations to all of these folks, and a good Memorial Day to you all.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Good evening. My name is Mike Fellows, and I live at, and my box number is P.O. Box 4803. And I've heard many issues tonight dealing with the city-county growth and those kinds of things, and we do have a thing coming up June the 1st that you might be interested in. It's the debate of the Democratic County Commissioners on MCAT from 7 to 8:30. So if you have any questions or further clarifications, I would encourage all of you to call and get those out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Hi, Tony Tweedale, 224 East Pine Street. Will Snodgrass and I just got out of the White Pine Sash public hearing, and didn't go very well. Everything that we tried to bring to their attention about the situation in 1988, 89 through 91 was more or less not germane. I think the point is that if neither the health department or White Pine and Sash wants to talk about those earlier events, there can't be a lot of trust established for the current cleanup plan. And the massive contamination was known to exist back in 89, and I asked them, how come you didn't try to determine the extent of the contamination back then, and received no answer. So I think we're going to pursue the avenue of a formal hearing before the Board of Health, which says citizens can bring grievances. And apparently that's not going to be easy, but I think we should get some support from the political establishment, you guys, to have that hearing, essentially for the reason that if these issues aren't talked about, the health department and White Pine and Sash aren't going to have any credibility on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Good evening, Will Snodgrass, P.O. Box 2885, Missoula. And as you learned, we were pretty well shut out at the hearing. The Department of Agriculture doesn't want to talk about the earlier tanks. Nobody wants to talk about any other tanks which might be buried on site with knowledge of some of the employees over there. Nobody wants to talk about worker safety. Apparently, Mr. Jingerly of the Department of Agriculture feels that he too has the right to infringe upon First Amendment rights by controlling the content of the comment. Director of the Health Department, Leahy, apparently is unable to read her own words written in the transcribed minutes of these meetings. And we have, in fact, requested a hearing some time ago in writing. And yes, by the way, White Pine Sash was warned of dioxins in 1987 in a written letter from the state to White Pine and Sash. White Pine doesn't remember getting that. But getting back to the hearing, it appears that the county attorney who apparently writes the letters for Phil Schweber feels that he can circumvent the law in locking public citizens out of hearings which are guaranteed by the bylaws. And then in closing, it cost me $500 to defend my First Amendment rights here. And Mayor Kemmis told me during our talks that if I wanted to get my $500 back for my attorney's fees, I would have to sue the city. So it appears that I'm going to have to do that. And because $500 is an awful lot of money to pay for exercising one's First Amendment rights, which were in fact violated. So I have begun negotiations with a constitutional attorney out of Denver, who also works in San Francisco. He's quite well known. And I would urge the city council to pay me my $500 attorney fees before it gets more expensive, because we all know that attorneys are expensive. I would also urge the city council to begin tightening the purse strings on the health department if the health department persists in covering up public health concerns. In closing, I was at the water quality hearing in Helena. The State Water Quality Board was very concerned about water quality. I was very surprised at the attentiveness of that board. My faith was somewhat renewed. We did learn from Mr. Carlson at that hearing that the entire Missoula aquifer is contaminated with perc. That's something that we've suspected all along. And we are going to refer and have referred the White Pine issue to the Environmental Crimes section of Janet Reno's Attorney General's office, along with a number of other issues. We feel that if these issues are not dealt with properly within the law, that we have no choice but to do that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Horton?
Well, have you submitted a bill?
I have not. No, I gave Dan the figures some time ago.
I think the appropriate thing to do would be to submit a bill and take it through the proper channels
Sure.
and see where it winds up.
It might be the most cost-effective way to solve this particular problem. Thank you.
Any other public comment? If not, we'll move on to items to be referred. Chuck?
Request by Kathy O'Brien regarding contract between the City of Missoula and WGM Group for engineering services for the California Street Sewer Project, SID 510, to Administration and Finance Committee regular agenda. Request by Doug Harrison regarding low-interest loans for sewer projects to Administration and Finance Committee regular agenda. Request by Chuck Stearns regarding claims to Administration and Finance Committee regular agenda. Request by Mayor Kemmis regarding FY95 budget to Committee of the Whole regular agenda. Request by Jenny Dixon regarding an upcoming PUD rezoning request by Greg Niemoff to Plat Annexation and Zoning Committee regular agenda. Request by Bruce Bender regarding step easement for 3102 Grant Street, Smith number 4, north 72 feet of west 45 feet of lot 13, block 16. To Public Services Committee consent agenda. Request by Steve King regarding commitment agreement from the State Revolving Fund Loan Program for Special Improvement District 511 to Public Services Committee consent agenda. Request by Jolene Mulcahy regarding step easement from Barbara Wegner for Wapakia number 3, south 1/2 of lot 6, block 3, 109 Cohasset to Public Services consent agenda. Request by Doug Harvey regarding order for project number 93-035 North Russell Street curbs and sidewalks to Public Services Committee regular agenda. Request by Joe Aldegar regarding an agreement for janitorial services for the Street Division building to Public Services Committee regular agenda. Request by Linda Tracy regarding discussing the Missoula ordinance pertaining to ambulances to Public Services Committee regular agenda. Request by Doug Harrison regarding fire services resolution to Public Services Committee regular agenda. Request by Chuck Stearns regarding contract award for project number 94-059 Missoula County Courthouse 300 block Ryman curb and sidewalk improvements to Public Services Committee regular agenda. Request by Chuck Stearns regarding contract award for project number 94-064-2112 Lester curb and sidewalk improvements to Public Services Committee regular agenda.
Are there any other referrals? Mrs. Shea?
I have 3 referrals to 3 different committees. The first one is NATOA membership. That would go to the Finance Committee. That's NATOA, acronym for National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors, and that goes to the Finance Committee. The second item is the reopening of contract with MCAT in the City of Missoula, and that goes to the Cable Television Committee. And the third item is interim ban on new billboards to the PAZ Committee.
Now, with that last item, Elaine, that we discussed at the last committee of the whole, that when these referrals are made, that it's important that the affected department know what it's about and so on before it's taken up.
There's been some work on at least 2 of these beforehand, but my intention with anything that I refer is that it would be on the agenda for a week before it's addressed.
All right. Okay, thanks. Any other referrals? If not, we'll go on to announcements of committee meetings.
Administration and Finance.
Tuesday, 3.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday at 3, excuse me.
Plat annexation and zoning.
Tuesday at 4:30.
Well, that's right. We have 2 weeks, Al. So do you want to do Administration and Finance both weeks, or do you want to do the second Administration and Finance on Monday, June 6th?
Just soon do it once if we can get by with it.
Well, the difficulty is claims. It's real heavy time of the year, and skipping a week of claims would create a lot of workload because we're coming up to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, we'll do claims the second Wednesday at 3. We'll probably end up, I have to do it by telephone maybe, but we'll try it.
So both Wednesdays?
Both Wednesdays, 3 o'clock.
Chuck, I'm not sure that Al was following your suggestion. I thought you were suggesting that you could meet this Wednesday at the normal time and then do the second one, just a brief meeting before the council meeting on the 6th.
Yeah, if they wanted to, but it's up to them.
If that will work, that's fine, that's better.
Okay,
That's,
so
6:45.
Monday, June 6th at 6:45. Okay, and then PAZ is tomorrow, Tuesday, at 4:30. So Tuesday, May 24th. Appointments Committee.
No meeting.
Cable TV Committee.
No meeting.
Committee of the Whole, and you now have the budget to deal with.
Budget meeting will be Wednesday immediately following finance at 4 o'clock. 4 to 5. We'll hopefully be out of there shortly after 5.
Public Services Committee.
3 o'clock tomorrow, and there will likely be some lively discussion that you won't want to miss.
Conservation Committee. Subcommittee on Zoning Definition of Family.
No meeting, but we will be taking this up before the Plat Annexation and Zoning Committee meeting Tuesday at 4:30.
Okay. So,
But just before we recap here, Curtis, there seemed to be quite a bit of interest in your teaser there, but not any clarity about what you were referring to. So if you want to fill people in, you might want to do that.
Well, we have several items which are likely to perk your interest, and I think probably the discussion of fire services resolution will be one. And there may be another if we have time to crowd our agenda and finish the items on the agenda.
And Al, as the budget committee, I didn't get a chance to talk with Chuck about this, but Kate has been trying very hard to get something scheduled that finally got scheduled for 4 o'clock on Wednesday that's got me tied up. So I guess our options there are to do your first meeting without me, which you may well be able to do. Chuck can give you the overview of the budget apart from my budget message, but it would be difficult for me to be there at 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
Well, I think we may as well go ahead and discuss budget on the overview. We'll have later opportunity to discuss it with you, I'm sure.
All right. Okay.
yeah, the only other options would be that night or June 1st, but you were also gone June 1st too, so.
It's my intention to be gone Wednesday night myself.
Okay, Administration and Finance, Wednesday at May 25th at 3 p.m.
Chuck, we've got Mr. Bennett.
We have a subcommittee on emergency medical response that Elaine, Craig Sweet, and I signed up for last week, and depending on whether Craig goes fishing tomorrow, we'd like to try to get together at 2:45. If not, we'll have to reschedule.
Subcommittee on Emergency Response, and that is Tuesday, May 24th at what time?
2:45, the creek willing.
Mrs. Chingarelli.
Dan, I was just going to suggest that maybe if there were some brief comments that you thought would be helpful for us to hear, you could put them in writing, and then Chuck could, either we could read them before the budget meeting, or Chuck could read them to us, or whatever, just so that if there were anything that you wanted us to hear before we went into that.
Okay, and of course my budget message is most of that, but I might also try to divide my time between these two meetings. I'll do my best. Thanks. Okay, Chuck, I think we're clear.
Okay, Administration and Finance, Wednesday, May 25th at 3 p.m. and Monday, June 6th at 6:45 p.m. Plat Annexation and Zoning, Tuesday, May 24th at 4:30. No appointments or cable TV committee meetings. Committee of the Whole, Wednesday, May 25th at 4 p.m. Public Services Committee, Tuesday, May 24th at 3 p.m. No Conservation Committee meeting and no Subcommittee on Zoning Definition of Family meeting. Subcommittee on Emergency Response, Tuesday, May 24th at 2:45 p.m.
Anything else tonight? Ms. Rosenleaf.
Just for the members of the committee, I need to be in Helena tomorrow, and I'm not sure I'll be back in time for our PAZ committee meeting tomorrow afternoon. I will try to be back, but I'm not sure that I will. And then, given that we don't have a meeting next Monday, I need to be out of the state June 4th through the 10th, so that y'all know I'll be missing Monday's meeting as well as the committee meetings the week of the 6th. And I did receive the notice from Chuck's office and Linda that when we make these announcements here, she's not going to type them up, and I never really expected her to, and I totally understand that. I may put in writing my absence of the 6th, but there doesn't need to be any paper announcement that I'll be out of town tomorrow.
Mr. Horton?
I will also be out of state on business beginning Tuesday night, and I would request to be excused from Wednesday's meetings.
Anything else? If not, the meeting is adjourned.